Clemson Georgia Tech game will kick off at 12:02, be televised nationally on ESPN. I want to thank Herb Tyler from Chick-fil-A in Clemson and Seneca for providing the lunch today. Anybody who arrived late who didn't already get their press passes for basketball, see either me or Philip Sykes after our press conference.
All right, thanks, Tim. First of all, just want to wish all of our veterans happy Veterans Day. We've probably got some in here, got some veterans in here. Just want to just wish y'all all a great day and really thank all of our veterans for just really allowing us to have the opportunity to do what we do. You know, I mean, it's really something that we just, I think, take for granted in this country all the time, just the freedoms that we have and the price that's been paid for that freedom. And the price that continues to be paid for it. So I just want to thank all of our veterans and also you know, Daniel Rodriguez, you know, one of our very own on this football team. So big challenge this week, playing Georgia Tech, always a tough opponent. You know, you can go back forever in Clemson history, and Clemson Georgia Tech is always been just a great game and a very tough opponent for both sides. You know, offensively, they are really playing and flying at a high level and just doing a great job of executing. They're averaging 6 yards a carry, 335 yards rushing a game, scoring 38 points a game. So huge challenge for our defense, obviously. And you know, I think the biggest thing when you look at them this year, their quarterback is just playing lights out for them. He's playing at a high level, and the things that jump out at me is they really have done a great job of establishing the dive play. I mean, they've got almost 1,400 yards rushing between the two main guys that have been playing there. I know Days has been in there as of late, but those two guys are right at 1,400 yards rushing. So they've done a great job of establishing, you know, the dive play. And then the other thing that just jumps out at me is their receiver is the leading scorer on the team. And, you know, that hasn't been the case. I mean, they've done a great job in the passing game. I think excellent job in the passing game. This quarterback has done an excellent job of throwing the football. He's made some big, timely throws for them, some fourth down conversions. And just very impressed with how they're executing offensively. You know, Days is averaging 6.2 a carry. You know, their wing guys, A-backs, number 9, number 31, number 21 are all averaging, you know, great stats as far as their rushing stats. And then, you know, the one, number 9, he's averaging 21 yards per catch to go with it. Doesn't have a lot of catches, but when he catches it, it's a big play. And then when you talk about their passing game, they're averaging right at 20 yards of completion. And so that's huge. You know, Smeltzer, 15, he's at 22 yards a catch, and 88 is averaging 18 yards a catch. And then, like I said, little number 9, he's averaging 21 yards a catch. So they are really hitting on a bunch of big plays, and but it all starts with them being able to run the football and the decision making that the quarterback is having. So we got a big challenge there. Obviously, you know, you got to win the line of scrimmage. You have to win a line of scrimmage. What they do is all about angles, and you know, we have to defeat blocks. We have to stay on our feet. I think that's critical. You know, obviously, this is that type of game where, you know, I mean, every game doing your job is important, but this is one where, you know, everybody. You better not get bored of doing your job over and over and over. Otherwise, it's a big play. We got to do a great job of leveraging the ball from the outside. You know, our secondary guys, when they're involved in the run support, they've got, because they crack, so getting off of blocks, guys triggering off of the cracks, but yet staying disciplined to the crack and goes, the stalk and goes, all that type of stuff that comes off of their run game from a play action standpoint. You know, first down and third down is critical because they basically are kind of a 4-down mentality. You know, pretty much the whole ball game, and that's just how they play. So, you know, big challenge. Hopefully we can play our best game there. I think we're going to have to play very well. And then, you know, defensively for them, the biggest thing is they're a bunch of juniors and seniors. There's a lot of juniors, redshirt juniors, seniors, redshirt seniors, all throughout their defense. So they've got some good experience over there. I think they're very knowledgeable as far as what they're doing. They've done a great job of creating turnovers. I think they've got about maybe 10 or 11 turnovers just in the last few ball games alone. And they've scored on defense. Just this past week, created a couple huge scores, opportunities defensively. And I think that Ted Roof does a great job in putting them in good position. From a coverage standpoint, they do a good job of mixing their coverages. They do a good job with the pressures. Well-coached football team. And then special teams, number 4 is, one of the best in this league. Punt returner, kick returner. So, big challenge for us. Always a tough opponent that's well coached. And we're looking forward to going down to Atlanta, and we're going to have to play well. So with that, I'll take your questions.
We're expecting Guillermo and Sharon back yesterday. Did they practice, and any further stat update?
Yeah, they both practiced. Have not talked to Guillermo today, but Sharon was actually in my office a little bit ago. He felt good today. Practiced last night. Guillermo took pretty much all the second team reps at center. So we're hopeful that both those guys will be back and available for us this week. But again, we really get into the grind of it today and tomorrow from a physical standpoint. But both looked pretty good last night.
Is it realistic to expect Deshaun Watson to just literally pick up where he left off, or maybe a quarter of rust, or has it been that long that you think that he would be a little more?
Well, I hope he picks up better than where he left off. He didn't leave off very good, to be honest with you. We're playing a pretty good defense, and he didn't play much, but we thought we had a touchdown call, and he ends up throwing it to the back, who's not expecting it, but we didn't know that he couldn't feel his hand out there. He knew something wasn't right, so he just got rid of it and came on out of the game. But he's got some experience now. It's not like this is his first time to play. He's played. There's not near as many unknowns with him for us as there was, at the start of the season when the guys never played a game, and especially on the road. I mean, he's played on the road. He's been in difficult situations. The biggest thing with Deshaun is he's done a great job of really staying totally engaged into the game planning process and what's happening at practice, and then during the games, being very, very focused and dialed in mentally as to what was going on. He's made good suggestions during the game. So I think mentally he's ready to go, and I think physically he's ready to go. As far as how he's going to play, I don't know. We're going to find out. I mean, I think he's going to play good. Practice is good. So I don't think he's any different than anybody else.
If Jay is able to go, he hasn't played in a month. Do you feel comfortable just putting him right in there at center in a game?
Well, again, we watch him practice this week. I mean, that's, we get our comfort, based on practice and how they're moving and how they're executing in practice. Again, he's played, so we know what he's capable of doing, but how's he practiced this week, and then how are the guys performing throughout the course of the game? Those are all things that you decide, as you move forward.
Is Ryan getting closer to Chad talked yesterday about him returning to that edge.
I thought he played really well last week. I was proud of Ryan, and sometimes that sideline will motivate you a little bit. And obviously Guillermo's been out, and we hadn't quite the competition at that position. For whatever reason, he had a couple games there just wasn't playing quite to his standard. Ryan's been a pretty dependable guy for us around here, and it was good to see him last week to get back and did some good things. Played with that edge we were looking for. So hopefully he'll play well this week, but it's good to have Jay back, and I think we'll know more after tomorrow. I mean, he's a little different. He's a 300-plus pounder, so it's a little different than Gary Peters or somebody like that, who had the same injury, as far as their coming back and effectiveness and those type of things.
Years ago, I guess 2 years ago, after the Georgia Tech game, I remember Coach Venables saying, "Thank goodness that's over." Does that kind of sum up this week versus, what they do?
They're just, it's tough because you just don't see it. It's kind of a season of its own. from a defensive standpoint. It truly is a season of its own, but we work on it all year. I mean, it's something we do in the spring, something we look at in fall camp, something we do in the open dates, just to try to kind of keep it out there in front of our guys, because there's just not really any carryover. Offensively, pretty much every week there's always some type of carryover. Very rarely you just say, all right, well, nothing that we've done applies to. I mean, there's always some type of 3 down, 4 down, quarter, half, 1 safety, 2 safety, what's their pressures, what's their blitz packages. There's usually some type, we've seen something like it. Rarely is there something we just hadn't seen. Occasionally you'll run into an exotic, but it's more the exception as opposed to the norm. Whereas, and the same thing defensively. Typically from week to week, okay, they're running the zone, the power, the counter, speed option. They got these pass concepts, these formations. Defensively, it's either 2x2, 3x1. They keep it pretty simple over there. But now all of a sudden you play this group, and it's a whole different animal because it's not the same. It's a totally different preparation. It's a totally different style of play. Everybody's flying off the ball, cutting every snap. Guys cutting every downfield every snap. It's just very different. You don't have the balance that you usually see from week to week. So it's a challenge in that regard. But I'm thankful that we got a lot of guys that have got a little bit of experience. Talk about not sleeping. My first week when we played them, when I got the job in 2008, it was the first time it was the very first time ever. Nobody had played them. So that was at least we've got a bunch of guys that understand. They've been in this game. They know, what to expect. So it's not something that shocks them. But from a preparation standpoint, this is definitely, always one of the biggest challenges that we have defensively every single year, without a doubt. They do a great job coaching, and Paul's been doing this forever. And you have to change it up. You can't just do the same thing. Because, once he gets a little information and he knows who's running the alley, he knows who's supporting, he knows who's playing the A-gaps, he knows who's tackling the fullback, he knows who's doing those things, then he's got answers. So you have to do a great job of keeping them off balance. And then, but the bottom line is you got to win your matchup. I mean, you have to physically win your matchup and try to disrupt, what they do.
With that said, the last 4 weeks your offense has leaned on your defense to kind of help them out. Is this one of those times where the offense is going to have to help the defense out, being that it's going to be a tough challenge for them? Well,
I mean, the offense is I think help the defense out every week. In some critical situations, we were in trouble up at Boston College. In 3rd and 10, we hit a 30-something yard play, and we got a score and drive there at the end. So I think it's been a team effort every week. I think there's strengths within that team each and every week, but and the defense hadn't done it on their own. But I think that offensively this past week, I'm very encouraged. Really, the last 2 weeks, especially how we finished the 4th quarter against Syracuse. That was encouraging to us. We kind of rode that a little bit in the Wake game. Again, kind of got a little rhythm going from some scoring possessions. We still miscued some. We still had 1 turnover, but we improved. So hopefully we can continue that trend. The biggest thing offensively is we've got to maximize our opportunities. This is a team that if you go out there and you have a bunch of 3 and outs, you're in trouble. You have to maximize your opportunities offensively, and then you have to capitalize. If you look at the Miami game, for example, they had some great drives that they turned it over inside the red zone. So it's a double-edged sword because their offense is keeping the ball, and now Miami's offense gets the ball and keeps it and got no points. So they only had like 52 or 3 snaps in the game. So you have to do a great job of maximizing your opportunities offensively. And then the biggest thing is take care of the football. You got to take care of the ball. We've done a pretty good job against these guys, the last 4 years. But when we got beat down there in 11, we turned it over 5 times. And it's just any team is hard to beat when you turn it over against them. But Georgia Tech, it's really, really hard just by the nature of what they do from a ball control standpoint. So turnover margin, field position, in this game, I mean, it's always important, but in this game, it is critical. We've won the last 2 weeks despite losing the turnover margin, and that's just that's a recipe for disaster this week.
Coaching against Georgia Tech for the past decade, they've been very consistent in always being there in the ACC. 20 straight years with at least 4-4 record in the ACC. What's made them so tough, just week in and week out?
Well, I mean, I think they've recruited well. They've been well coached. I thought Coach Gailey did a good job when he was there, and going against those guys. When I first got here, I just think there's a lot of pride in their program. They've got great tradition in their program. Obviously, from a location standpoint, they're in a good spot to recruit. Chan Gailey, they recruited some good players in there. We all remember those guys, and then I think that obviously Paul Johnson has done a great job. He brought a whole different scheme there that is really he's done a good job implementing and recruiting too, and they've just been very consistent with it. So I mean, it's just always a tough game, and then just the rivalry part, I think, of Clemson Georgia Tech in this particular game is something that both fan bases take a lot of pride in. There's a lot of passion surrounding this game, I mean, they're just a good program. Good program.
You mentioned the cut blocks of Georgia Tech, and that always comes up, especially for your defensive players and the veterans that you have. Because it's an older group, are they more mentally able to deal with the type of blocking that Georgia Tech will do?
Well, I just think the experience factor. Whenever you've gone against it a bunch, you have a better understanding of how to play it. How to use your hands, how to read things, how to stay on your feet, how to play over those blocks, and you can draw on that experience as opposed to first time. I think that's a little bigger challenge. But we got a lot of guys that, like I said, that have been in this game, that understand it, and and they do a good job. Georgia Tech does an excellent job. I mean, they do an excellent job in how they coach it and teach it. I mean, it's at all levels. I mean, they're chopping people down at all levels, but they do it right. They do it legally, and they'll have the occasional chop block just like all of us do. But there's nothing intentional or anything like that. But it's a game where, and the other thing they don't get enough credit for is blocking on the perimeter with their crack blocks. I mean, they do an excellent job. They're fully committed at wideout to being physical on the perimeter with those crack blocks. And that really cuts the defense in half and challenges you and creates a lot of one-on-one tackles. So we got to tackle well and tackle well in space against these guys. But at the end of the day, if all your guys are on the ground and we don't do a good job of staying on our feet, it's a long day for you. And so hopefully the experience. These guys have played against them 3 years in a row, all of our D-line, and hopefully the experience will show up. And they'll play well Saturday. But it ultimately comes down to that matchup.
Do you think because they've been through it, they're less concerned about the knees and the injury factor?
Oh, yeah, they're not worried about all that. It's just, they get cut, every week. It's just this is a different deal in that it's, not just one guy cutting on the backside or something. It's all of them. It's just what they do.
How has Vic evolved as a complete defensive end?
Just come a long way. A long way. He's and that's been the area he needed to improve this year, was to be a more complete player, and he's done that. If you really just go and watch the tape on Vic Beasley, just sit down and how many games? What we said, we played 9 games. Just watch the 9 games of Vic Beasley. Just him. It's impressive what he's been able to do against what he's had to face. Because he's seen it all. He's become very disruptive in the run game, just as disruptive there as he's been in the pass game. He's run people down from backsides. His first step movement has allowed him to really create problems in the run game. His ability to redirect, where he really was out of the play, but his ability and athleticism to be able to redirect, I think has been a game changer. This year, just played with more confidence in that regard. And then obviously in the passing game, he's you know, I promise you, they got a plan for him every week, every single week. But it's allowed us to do it. You know, Grady had 2 sacks this week. It's allowed other people to have opportunities. Vic had one, missed one, but he's been just very disruptive. But he's a smart player. He's a very instinctive player. That's where he's probably improved as much as any other part of his game, is just his overall understanding of what people are trying to do and why, and then how to counter that.
Was this the game during his redshirt year where he played the scout team quarterback?
Yeah, yeah. No, I can't remember if it was his true redshirt year, or if it was his redshirt freshman year, because he was scout team guy's redshirt freshman year as well. But yeah, he was. That was it's amazing. That just goes to tell you how far he's come right there. He was the scout team quarterback for Georgia Tech. Now he's our starting defensive end.
You still comfortable with Adam at punt returner?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had a bad day. He's been very solid for us all year. He just made a very, very poor decision. I mean, he just misjudged the ball, and so just let it go. You don't just. I mean, it's hard enough to catch a punt correct with good fundamentals, but now you're trying to catch some miraculous over the top, reaching behind you, and that was just a poor decision by a veteran player. And then he came back, and I think was a little gun shy, and he should have handled that ball and let it go all the way down to the 1 yard line. So he had 2 critical errors, but we'll work hard this week to get back, get his confidence back in what he's capable of doing. I mean, he's been very solid for us in possessing the ball all year, and not going to fire him. Everybody makes mistakes. I mean, I'm glad I didn't fire Ammon Lacob after a couple of his big mistakes. He's a Groza finalist now. In the beginning of the year, he was the GOAT. It's they're young people, and they don't always do what we ask them to do. They don't always execute it right. But Adam Humphries, I think you look at the totality and consistency that he's performed with, we're confident there.
Looking back, could you have imagined maybe at this time last year with T.J. Green kind of fighting to get on the field as a wide receiver, that he'd be your starting safety coming up in a big game?
Not at this time last year, I didn't. But when the season was over and I was kind of contemplating making that move, I felt like after watching him a year that it might be good to look at him at safety this spring, or that last spring. I thought that might be something, and he and I talked about it, and he went home, thought about it, and decided that's what he wanted to do. Knew I could move him back to wide out, but just felt like long term for him and long term for our team that might be the best spot for him. And he's going to be a great player. I mean, this guy is an incredible athlete and can fly. He's physical. He's a tough, conscientious guy. He's got a lot to learn still as far as just play. I mean, he's like a freshman because he played wide out all last year. So just getting the system down, he's kind of about where J-Ron was last year mentally, and he's just going to get better. He's gotten some good experience this year. He's done some good things for us, but he's going to have a big challenge this week. But it's not just him. I mean, it's TJ. We're going to let those guys compete this week. TJ and Corinne and Jadar. Those 3 guys have got to step up for us. They don't. Corinne will move back in this particular game because we don't really have a nickel situation in this game. So those 3 guys will compete all week, and they'll all have to step up for us.
What do you like most about what Venables has brought in defending this offense in the last 2 years?
I just think he's